Hey guys are joining me here today. I'm Angela Brown and I'm here with the legendary Omuugn. Today we're talking about the insights and wisdom of Omuugn, and this is from volume 1. This is one of the most interesting and educational books that you'll ever get your hands on. And right now we're in volume 1. It's actually part of a 2-volume pack. This is volume 1 and volume 2. Today we are inside volume 1. These are available now online, and if you have not already, please pick up your copy so that you can follow along with us on Saturday mornings. Now, today we are talking about the creation process, and this is creation and manifestation. And we are reading from pages 167 to 177 in the book, The Insights and Wisdom of Omuugn. So I am really excited about today's topic because if it wasn't for creating and manifesting, this book would not exist. Neither would the volume series, and neither would the other books that Omuugn has written. So please help me welcome Omuugn. How are you today?
Oh, good morning. I'm doing really, really well. It's a beautiful day in Eastern Oregon.
Well, we're really excited to have you with us today. And today is a really interesting topic because many of us create things and we manifest things whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not, and whether they're actually good for us or not. So please tell us in your own words, what is creation and manifestation?
Well, I think I need to start with sort of a disclaimer. This topic can go in so many directions, into the metaphysical world and the spiritual world and the multidimensional world and the third dimensional world. And we could talk about a lot of things, the philosopher's stone, alchemy, and all of the ancient traditions of creation. And so my disclaimer is that we're going to be looking at things sort of through my perspective, through my research. And so we're looking at my experience and sort of how I look at things. And if other people look at things differently, that's okay, because everyone has their own belief system and everyone looks at things through their filters and how they analyze and look at things. So what we're going to explore today are just some of my ideas. And if someone wants to make a comment and ask particular questions, they're free to do that. And we can pursue different things in different ways. But today will be sort of my take on things. So if you don't agree with them, that's okay, because you might believe in things that I don't agree with, and that's okay with me too. So
one of the things that I do ask from you, if you're watching this live or if you're listening to the replay, is that you will listen to the ideas and then you will question them and let them settle before you make a judgment on them. Because whether we know it or not, we're creating all of the time. And as we're creating things, positive or negative, we're bringing things and attracting things into our lives. And so if you've ever stopped to wonder, why is this in my life? It's because you've attracted it there. So why did you create it? So before you judge these concepts, please look at it with an open mind and then say, wait a second, can I change the things I create? So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. And I want to read from your book, if I might. At the beginning, it says manifestation is the process of bringing your desires into reality through your thoughts, emotions, and actions. So tell us more about that.
Well, it goes along with what you've said already, and that is that we're actually creating and manifesting things all of the time. The reason that we're who we are and where we are and enjoying the kind of lifestyle that we enjoy is because we have created it. And to some people that will be a little challenging, I suppose, because some people view us as sort of victims in this world. We're born into certain situations and we have different levels, for example, of wealth or poverty, whatever it might be. And we don't believe that we have created all of those things, that we're just experiencing them. But to a greater degree than we might imagine, we are actually manifesting and seeing our belief systems manifest before our eyes. And we do that in a lot of different ways. We have to realize that the universe, we'll use the universe as kind of a catch-all phrase. People actually believe in different deity, and they relate to spiritual things differently, and that's okay. We're going to call it universal laws, universal principles, and a universal intelligence, so that it's responding to our belief system. Each one of us has a very, very distinctive belief system, and that belief system is supported by the intelligence that operates in this universal plane. And we all have our own DNA. Every person has a different DNA, although much of the DNA is the same. DNA, the expression of DNA takes place on the genetic level. So the genes that are active in our lives make us who we are individually. You get half of your genes from your father and half of your genes from your mother. And many of the traits and the characteristics of those people come into who you are as a person. And they also have genetics that make them who they are because of their mother and father. And it keeps going back and back and back for generations, of course. And so we're picking up traits, characteristics, maybe from our parents or our grandparents or our great-grandparents, or it can go all the way back. And some of the genes are recessive. In other words, they're not turned on. And some genes are turned on. And every gene is a characteristic, if you will. I won't get into how the DNA actually operates with the RNA and the genetic factors, but there's actually a mechanics behind this whole thing that really makes us who we are. And so when we're talking about manifesting and creating things, we're talking about kind of two different things. We're talking about things, physical things, and we're talking about changing ourselves and moving ourselves into a higher dimensional reality, if you will. And so we need to sort of understand how that process works. And they're sort of two different, they're not actually different, but they're applied in a different way when we're dealing with things or when we're dealing with traits and characteristics. For example, there's a thing called the placebo effect. You can give someone some medication, you can give someone else a placebo or a pill that has no medicine in it at all. And science has proven that many, many times the person who receives the placebo has the same experience, if you will, as the person who took the medication, because they believe that they're getting the medication. And so their body and their reality responds to that as though it were true. And so the way we think and the way our mind operates is very, very powerful. And it really turns us into the creators that we can be. And we have the ability to turn switches on our genes. In other words, if I believe something because I was taught in my youth, and it's been a tradition in my family, but I come to realize that I don't believe that. I see a different picture, and I want to create something different. I have the ability to change my belief, flip the switches on the genes, and make that change permanent. And a
All right, so
permanent.
if that's true, and let's assume that it is, if I grew up in an environment, and I didn't, by the way, but let's pretend for a second that I grew up in an environment that was very negative and it was very victimization and life is bad and woe is me and all the things. You're saying that I can, even though that might be everything that I inherited from my parents or my upbringing, that I can at some point in a conscious level say, wait a second, I'm going to flip the script, the switch, and I'm going to do this completely differently. And I'm no longer a victim, and I'm going to welcome into my life something that's positive and uplifting and different. You're saying that's possible.
It's absolutely possible. And I'm sure that we've all experienced it. There are things that in our lives that we don't prefer. And so we have to stop and think, what would I prefer in this circumstance? Because that's what I want to believe. Right now, we live in a world where nations are going to war, and all of us say, what I would like is peace. But what we experience in the real world is a lot of turmoil and war and things that we don't prefer. And so we have to make a choice. And many people do make a choice by protesting. They actually go out into the streets and hold up signs and say, I don't want to go to war. I don't think it's right that one country is bombing another country and killing many, many innocent people. And so I want to stand against that thing. And so they make their belief a prominent characteristic of theirs. And when you do things like that, you're actually changing your belief or solidifying your belief so that the universe knows exactly where you stand.
Well,
And the
and
universe,
let's talk about that for just a second, not to interrupt you, and I apologize. But
no,
for
that's fine.
example, instead of you going out on a street corner in the 30-degree weather that's freezing and snow and holding up a picket sign saying, I do not like the way that people are fighting each other, what you have decided to do from a standpoint of creation is you said, I have a voice. I want my voice to be heard. Therefore, I'm going to create a YouTube channel and a podcast, and I'm going to focus on insights and wisdom that will help people become a better person, so that, like a ripple effect, where you throw a rock into a pond and it has the ripple effect and it starts to go out and affect things around it. Instead of just showing violence and saying, I don't like this, and standing on a street corner, you've taken a different approach that then is more far reaching and has a bigger and broader effect, and will affect people at a level where they're like, huh, okay, so now as I'm washing dishes today, I can be thinking about these insights and wisdom that are true principles that I can start implementing into my own life, and I can start making a change here at my own kitchen sink, one person at a time, wherever those people are that are watching and listening to this right now.
yeah, there are different levels of consciousness. For example, there's our personal consciousness, and there's also a collective consciousness. So that in our country, there are collective consciousnesses working. We have people that are radically to the left who want open borders and all of these things happening in our country. And there's a collective consciousness on the other side that wants everything controlled and balanced and budgets adhered to and borders controlled and all kinds of things. And so these collective consciousness are working actually against each other. And so we're going to discover in our lesson today, in our discourse, seminar, conference, I don't know what we call this, but we're going to find out that everything is a resonant frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And the most powerful resonant frequencies are going to be victorious. And so if you want to manifest something, you want to take the energy away from what you don't want and put your energy into what you do want. You want to accentuate that and sort of make that channel strong and clear and precise. And people that are sort of wishy-washy in their belief system are going to be overrun by people who are very precise in what they believe and what they want. And I think in the backbone of America, I think there are a lot of people who appreciate the traditions of what America has always been, supporting the free sovereignty of people and having the people collectively make decisions and do things that they feel are best for them, rather than having some dictator or president or someone from above telling them what to do and how to live their lives. And so I think as as we become aware of what's really happening in the background, I think most people are going to solidify behind the collective consciousness of what I call sanity, where individual freedom is promoted and where national sovereignty is promoted and where we appreciate our country and we appreciate our ability to speak our mind and to have sessions such as this one, where we can actually express what we believe and tell other people, and we're not totally censored and controlled by some other entity. And so, yeah, we're in a very, very blessed place.
It's interesting because we talk about our own personal participation in the creation process. And it's really an interesting thought because as we are creating every single day, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, and we talked about being a victim and living in an environment where maybe things are not what we prefer. It's interesting. The other day, I was doing a podcast and I had a gentleman on the podcast who neutralizes those negative behaviors. And it was a really interesting concept because many of us carry these negative behaviors throughout our entire lives without realizing that we're even doing it. And we were talking specifically about clutter and how we get tripped up on, I can't get rid of stuff in my house for some reason and I don't know what it is. And so he does, it's natural healing, but what he does is he goes in and he reads people's auras and he can tell where they're tripped up and he helps unclog those areas. The interesting result is once he was able to kind of break that bond that people have that's so tough, they're able to then create and manifest more positive things in their lives. And I really saw that as an interesting opportunity because many of us are creating things we don't even have awareness that we are creating. And I think your book is really an interesting philosophy and series of ideas because here you're talking about the law of attraction. And you say the law of attraction is a central concept in many spiritual traditions. And the law states that we attract into our lives what we focus on, whether it's positive or negative. And most people, I don't even think, are aware that they are participating in something that's negative, something that's fighting, something that's uneven, something that's out of sequence as far as balance of finances goes. We're in debt, but we don't know why. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're doing in our lives that we are creating without really even paying attention as to why we're creating it or how we are creating it.
Yeah, a lot of times we develop habits, and the habits just become normal life to us, and we accept the habits as being the way life is. For example, we have people who hoard things, and whenever they see something at a thrift store, they purchase it, and they'll go to the dollar store and purchase things, and they'll just collect things, and they don't realize that it could be a bad habit that they need to look at it in a different way, as far as keeping your life organized and well, what you would prefer, how you would prefer to live. And what you brought up is kind of interesting, the law of attraction. There are different laws that govern us, that govern how we create things. For example, there are some scriptural things and some wisdom literature things that say that all things are created spiritually before they are physically manifested in our world. And we'll define spiritual first of all. Spiritual is sort of dimensional or multidimensional. If you go beyond the third dimensional world, you get into the world of multidimensions or spirit. And science struggles with those dimensions because you can't take something outside of our third dimensional world and take it into a laboratory and test it and prove it. There are things like love and faith and all kinds of things that you can't put into a laboratory and test it, but they're real. Love is real and faith is real. I like to compare it to two rooms. In one room, you have you have the engineers who sit down, the architects. They sit down and they design things They draw the blueprints out, and when they're done, they take the blueprints and they hand them to a construction supervisor, say, and he will take those blueprints and he will build the thing that they have created in this engineering room. The engineering room is kind of like the spiritual dimension where things are created originally, and then for them to manifest in our world, that's where we're the construction supervisor, and we take those blueprints and we actually create the things that the blueprints tell us to create. And we do that in different ways. For example, let's suppose that there are two children fighting. Let's say Bobby and Billy. They're fighting over a toy. And the parent can go up and say, "You boys shouldn't be fighting. You go to your rooms," and they're basically punished or detained, or the fight is broken up. That doesn't change the trait. That doesn't change the gene structure. Whereas if a parent would say, "Hold on, boys, let's sit down here and work through this. Let's try to determine why you're fighting. Billy has a toy and Bobby wants the toy, and so they're pushing and pulling on this toy. Who owns the toy?" Billy says, "It's my toy, and Bobby took it without permission." And so you sit down and you rationally go through the process and you say, "Bobby, this is Billy's toy, and if you have something, you don't want someone to just come in and take it. You want someone to talk to you," and you go through the process. And that fight can be a learning experience where you teach how to manipulate in challenging circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And if they learn how to do that, that becomes a trait that they have that goes into their character. And all through their life, they will think, when confrontation takes place, how can I communicate and resolve this in a peaceful, sensible manner? And so if you create the traits that you want to manifest in different situations, you can manifest a different nature in yourself. You can transform yourself into a different kind of a person, the person that you would prefer to be.
One of the things
And
I like about what you're saying is if we learn those negotiation strategies while we're young, for example, those are skills that build on top of each other. And so as we go through the course of our lives, we have a new set of skills that we can apply to the next situation. And if I hear what you're saying correctly, and I want to really highlight this so that it doesn't slip away, but if we have a series of skills that are learned skills that we stack on top of each other, we become more powerful creators every step of the way through our journey. And so instead of us just feeling helpless and victims and, victims of tragedy or what have you, what we become is we become creators at a different level where every single step of the way, instead of feeling helpless, we say, wait a second, I have a new set of skills because of what I just came through. And if I apply this to the next situation, I can create something new and something better and something that I do prefer in my new life moving forward because of what I have just come through and the things that I've learned.
well, yeah, and that was the reason for the book in the first place, is that we need to take the time to create an awareness of really what our traits and characteristics are. And sometimes we don't take the time to do that. And so I went through and I identified the traits and characteristics that make us who we are. And there were 158 that I came up with. And I'm sure that there are more. But when you look at each trait individually, you can actually say, well, these are the characteristics of this trait through scripture and through wisdom literature that has come down through the ages as being the sort of the correct way to do things. And so that's what parents should be teaching their children. For example, if you have homeschool, these books would be a good curriculum for your homeschool, because your children would learn about each one of their traits and characteristics and how to maximize that. If your children go to public school, then it's even more important that you take them through and show them what the traits and characteristics are that are sound and proven through the ages. And so that's just a good way to approach life, is to identify your traits and characteristics and not be embroiled in bad habits and unawareness and going through life making the same mistakes over and over and over again.
I want to highlight that for just a second, because teaching your children at a very young age is not only crucial to the success of them being an adult, but the things that they learn also stack on top of each other. And I want to stop for a second, because you are not a man who just walks or talks the talk, but you also walk the walk. And I happen to have in front of me a couple of stories that you have written for children. And starting out when we were young. And for those of you that are joining us that did not know, Omuugn is my father. And so I am a witness of this at a very young age. This particular one, Fearless Phil, is a story song that was a song he sang to us, accompanied by his guitar, while he was putting us to bed at night while we were children. Now, talk about manifestation. It became a song first. And as it became a song, not until later, much later, as he became a grandfather, did he turn this into a children's book. But this is a series of lessons. And this particular lesson is anything is possible, right? Believe in your dreams, anything is possible. The next one is a book that accepts us who we are and says life is not impossible. I can be a giant. It's called The Giant. I can be a giant depending on what I'm comparing myself to. So instead of saying I'm useless, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not whatever, it's I am good enough as I am compared to other things, knowing that I will become bigger and stronger as life goes on, right? So again, another story song that was then given to us. So we talk about the books, and I'm just really proud of both of these projects. Thank you, Omuugn, for giving these to us. But at a very young age, those are the lessons. And then as we grow and the lessons stack on top of each other, we become really profound in our thinking. Then we have the next books. And this is not a song, but one of the things that I do want to highlight in here, and this is one of the things that I love about this particular book, were it a song, Omuugn himself is actually a poet, and we have at the end of every single lesson, all of the 158 characteristics that we talk about in the Insights and Wisdom of Omuugn, there is a poem that is a prose that makes you think in terms of a rhythm. Wait a second, this applies to me in this way. And I don't know, maybe one day this becomes a song, maybe it becomes these individual books of their own. I don't know. But these are lessons now for adults. And what Omuugn is mentioning is, if you were to homeschool, and we were homeschooled, these are lessons that you can go through one lesson a week. And if you are a leader and you have a team, this is a weekly lesson that you could have with your team. And if you are a school teacher, please, this is a lesson that you could share with your classroom, and one topic per week. And it's the reason that we're joining you once per week here on a Saturday morning to unpack these insights and wisdom, so that those ideas do stack on top of each other, so that you can create a better life by understanding better things. And it's only when you're willing to dive in and learn new characteristics and learn new traits and then implement them into your life and use them that you actually have mastery of those skills. Because if you let them pass you by, you're going to wake up one day and your life was very shallow and you just felt like a victim through the whole life, because guess what? That's what you created.
Well, it's an exciting concept to think that we can be whoever we want to be. We can be the kind of person that we want to be. If there's a circumstance that manifests itself, or a setback, or whatever it might be, how would the person that I want to be, how would they respond to this circumstance? So we can create ourselves to be whatever it is that we want to be. And I would like to carry this thought into the things. For example, I know that you're considering a new home, and you have a beautiful home, by the way. And the idea behind your home is that it's maybe more than you need or more than you want to take care of. And so you want to downsize and make your life maybe a little more simple. and you're able to utilize your time in a different way instead of maintaining a big, uh, I don't want to call it a mansion, but it's a very nice home. You want a more simple life. And so you have a couple of options in how you create this new home that you want to live in. You can look around and try to see something that you like, or you can sit down and say, this is the home that I would like to live in. And you can sit down with an architect or your husband, or you can do it yourself. Say, this is how many rooms I would like. This is how I would like the electric. See, an electric circuit should have an outlet every 12 feet. But you might say, I would like one every 6 feet because I have a lot of electronic things.
I do.
You do. And so you would design the electrical circuits to meet your particular needs. And maybe you want 2 bathrooms, or maybe 3 bathrooms, or 4 bathrooms. You would sit down and create a plumbing diagram for your home. And you would decide what style home you would like to live in, whether it's a rugged log cabin type of home, or one of these English manor proper things, that some people like. You can decide what kind of a style, what kind of colors, what kind of textures, whether you want to carpet your home or have hardwood floors, or you design everything. This is kind of the spiritual creation that you go through. And you outline everything that you want in detail. And as soon as you know precisely what that is, an interesting thing happens. The universe will come in and begin to support that belief system. That once it has crystallized in your mind and you say, this is what I would like, the universe will begin to work with you to bring that about. And whether it's to find a home that already has all of the amenities that you like, or whether you're going to have to build one from scratch, you'll have to decide where to build it and go through the whole process. But the universe will support you in whatever it is that you want to create and manifest in your life. And so the more precise and with the most clarity that you have, it will make that process so much more accelerated and enhanced and beneficial in all different ways. You will see opportunities open up. You will see synchronicities that will manifest in your life. You will see all different kinds of things. You see, once you decide what you want, your job isn't exactly to determine how to do that. The universe knows how to do what you believe in. And so
I want to interrupt you for just a second. You're exactly correct, and that exact thing happened to me. And I have to go back 20 years. When I was 20 years ago, I was broke. I was just flat on my butt broke, and I didn't have any money, and I didn't understand money management. And I was wanting to live something different. I preferred something different for myself. And this is kind of a gambling version of what you're saying, but you just said you don't have to know how it works, and I didn't. So I got in my car and I drove through some really rich, fancy neighborhoods. And I looked at the homes and I was curious, like, how do these people live this way? Like, what are their jobs? What are they doing that they get this kind of money that they can live in this kind of a house? And as I drove through the house, I picked a house and I said, that is for me. And I took a picture of it with one of these little cameras that had the little tiny little thing in the back where you take a picture of it and you got to send the roll of film in and they send you a little envelope of pictures back. And I took this little picture that I had printed. It was this pretty little house, and it was a pretty big house. And I put it on a board. And this is back in the 90s where we had these, what we call them, vision boards. And we cut out pictures of magazines and we took pictures of fancy things. And we were like, oh, I'm going to get that for myself. And I hung up this little picture of this home. And every day I would look at this board that I had created. And I was like, that is for me. Well, what's interesting about it is I moved it several times and I took the board down, but I took the pictures off the board and I put them in a stack. Like, this is my vision of what I'm going to have. It was about 25 years later. I was going through a box, and in the box was that stack of pictures from my vision board back in the 90s. And I pulled out this picture of this house. And as I looked at it, I kind of froze. And I froze because it's the house that I now live in. And I took a picture of the house and I sent it to my husband on his phone. And I said, "Take a look at this." He said, "Why? What's wrong?" And he said, is there something wrong with one of our shrubs?" And I said, "No, this isn't our house. This is a picture of a house I took almost 30 years ago. And I was looking at this for years saying, that is for me." What's really peculiar about this situation is this. When we went to buy this house, we actually picked a different house. And they said, "We can't do that elevation of that house because there's one right across the street. So we have to do something different. You're going to have to go with this other house." And they gave us a different elevation, which is the front design of the house. And we were like, okay, that's fine. And I was like, it'll grow on me. And it did grow on me. And it was okay. And we grew into that house. But what's really interesting is at an unconscious level, I'd already chosen that house, that same exact elevation almost 30 years prior. So isn't that interesting how at an unconscious level, everything in the universe started coming together to make that happen for me, even though I wasn't consciously aware of, like you said, the electrical outlets and the plumbing and how that was all supposed to happen. I didn't know how the money was supposed to happen. I didn't know how the job was supposed to happen. I didn't know how the house was supposed to come together. At the time, I wasn't married. I didn't know that there would be a husband involved. I didn't know any of those things. So when we talk about the power of intention and we talk about the law of attraction and we talk about being clear about something, and then all of a sudden stuff starts to fall into place. I want to be really crystal clear about this. Even if you don't have any idea how it's supposed to come together, there are other elements at work. And you talk about being on a frequency. There are other things that will start coming together that start putting you in alignment with whatever it is that's supposed to happen. Now, you said I'm looking at another house right now. Well, here's the cool thing. I spend an enormous amount of time in my office. So I wanted a really big office. And then I don't know why, but the big fancy house that I had, I loved the kitchen. I don't cook or anything, so I have no business being in that kitchen. But I love it. It's just an awesome kitchen. And I said to myself, and this is probably 10 years ago, if I could have a house with this kitchen and that office, and that's the only house I had, I could let go of all the other little rooms that I don't use a lot of, and I could just have this big house with this big kitchen and a big bedroom, like for my office. I'd be good. Well, now the house that we'll be moving into is exactly that. It's exactly that. It's got this ginormous kitchen and a ginormous office, which are the two most important rooms of the house to me. And it's exactly what I had said 10 years ago. But now it's kind of like everything is coming together. And as we'll be moving to a new home, that's what it is. It's exactly that. But be careful about what you say, because the things that you say start calling those ideas into action. It starts attracting that towards you. And so if you're not clear about what you're saying, please be very, very careful about your words, the thoughts that you think. You talk about the placebo effect. Your unconscious mind does not know the difference between real and imagined. When it saw that house every day that I was looking at on my wall, it didn't know that it was not real for me. It kept saying, "What, you want that house? You keep saying that house is for you. Is that your house? Is that what you're looking for?" And it started bringing all those things together. So the words that we say, the thoughts that we think, the actions that we take, those all start aligning everything, whether it's good or bad in your life, which is a really big risk, a really big risk. If you're a negative person and that's all you play in your tapes over and over and over again is how bad life is and how terrible things are and how broken and hurt and in pain you feel, that's exactly what you're gonna get.
Sometimes we don't realize, but the reality is that we are immersed in a multi-dimensional matrix of intelligence. And that matrix that intelligence knows everything, how to put things together in ways that we can't even fathom. For example, when a baby is conceived, all of a sudden, all of the cells begin to replicate and all of the things begin to take place. And it's not your your intelligence that directs that. You don't know how that happens, but all of the processing is going on behind the scenes with a higher intelligence running everything. And it doesn't matter if it's an animal in the animal kingdom. Little puppies will grow into big dogs and they will go through their process. Every seed will replicate after its kind, and all of the information for that seed is in the seed, and the intelligence will govern how all of that processes. And that universal intelligence knows everything. It knows how to do everything. It knows when to do everything and how to bring all kinds of circumstances together to make it happen. You don't, as you say, don't know how to go through all of those processes. So your job, our job, is to precisely determine what we prefer, what we want to believe. And if we want to believe something that's a change from our current belief system, the universe is hard to trick. It's sort of like the universe is going to support your belief system.
Mhm.
And when you go before the universe and say, okay, that was my belief system yesterday, but I have a new belief system now. I want you to support me in the new belief system. The universe will say, are you trying to trick me? Because I know what your belief system is. You can't just say you have a different belief system. I know you better than that. It's sort of like looking into a mirror and the mirror is frowning back at you. And you say, well, gee, I don't prefer that. I would prefer to be smiling, to radiate joy and happiness. And so if you change your belief system and become radiant and happy, and then you look into the mirror, you'll see that the mirror now looks joyous and happy and is smiling because you have changed. You don't change the mirror. You have to change the reality behind the image that's in the mirror. That's how creation and manifestation take place.
Well,
And
we
so,
call that the new norm. And the new norm is if I eat a donut today, nothing bad happens to me. It was just delicious. And then I eat a donut tomorrow, nothing bad happens again. It was delicious. And then every day, it's the small behaviors repeated over time. One day I wake up and I'm 300 pounds and I'm like, holy smack, how did I get to be 300 pounds? What happened is it's the series of behaviors repeated over and over and over again that create that new norm. And so, like you said, the universe is like, are you trying to trick me? Well, maybe the first time you ate the donut, it's like, you're trying to trick me. Second time, you're trying to trick me. Third time, you're trying to trick me over and over again. I guess you're not tricking me anymore. I guess this is the new norm. And all of a sudden, what's reflected back to you is that new normal behavior that you've been practicing. And just like the negative person that's been calling into their life all the negative things, you can reverse the process by every single day focusing on the new norm, whatever that new norm is for you. I created a tape and I will leave links in the comments below. It's called The New Tape. It's literally a new tape. And if you've been playing over and over and over in your mind a broken tape that is negative and it's defective and it makes you be a victim and all these things, you can every day play a new tape. And I want it to override the tape that you are playing in your head. And I created it out of my own necessity because I was a house cleaner. And as a house cleaner, I'm alone with my thoughts all day, every day while I'm cleaning other people's homes. And so only what's in my head is what kept playing over and over again. And I said, wait a second. If I'm powerful and if I'm healthy and if I feel fantastic and if I pop out of bed like toast in the morning and I'm full of energy, and this is what I want to call into my life, I need a new tape that will override those, oh, I feel so horrible. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I have so much pain in my body. I need something that will override that. And that's why I created that tape. And I listen to it as I fall asleep at night, so that when I wake up in the morning, all the things start to happen that I'm willing into my life moment by moment, day by day, so that when I do look in the mirror, what looks back at me is a completely different picture, but it's one that I have created by choice, not one that I just kind of fell into. And I created it without even paying attention because I was just flying by the seat of my pants through life.
Yeah, and a little deeper insight into that also is that the universe will test you. For example, if you have a circumstance and you respond to it in a way that you would not prefer, because that is your belief system. If you tell the universe that you have a new belief system, the universe will actually bring a circumstance or something similar into your life to see if you respond the same way that you did in your old belief system.
Mm.
And if you've actually progressed and developed a new framework like your tape will do, then you respond differently, and the universe says, okay, I see that they really have changed, and so I will support now this new belief system.
Hmm.
And like you're saying also, everything is a resonant frequency. It's sort of like a TV channel or a radio station. When you turn into that channel, that's what you're going to experience. Although that you although you're surrounded by thousands of TV channels and many, many, many radio stations and all kinds of internet broadcasting, and I don't know exactly how the web is put together, but I know that all of these frequencies are available to us all of the time. But the frequency that we tune into, when I sit down at my computer, I determine what channel I will go to. If I want to learn something and I will go to a YouTube channel on how to do something, that's what I'm tuned into, and that's what I will experience.
Hmm.
And that's the way your thought process is. Whatever you choose to think about, whatever you focus on, that you become that resonant frequency. And so if your resonant frequency is the person that you want to be, then that's who you really are, and the universe will support you in that. So you want to become the resonant frequency of what it is you want to become. That sounds redundant in a way, but you want to match your goal with who you are right now in your resonant frequency, and that's what you will experience. That's what will become your reality. And
Well,
so,
speaking of reality, I know that we can't get away from a conversation without talking about AI. I know you would like to just bring it up in every conversation because we love AI, but I think this goes along the same lines. If I ask AI, and I'm talking about ChatGPT specifically, if I ask ChatGPT a question, it's based on my prompt. I have to give it a prompt and say, here's a parameter, and here's what I need you to do, and can you go out and find me this information? The better the prompt, the better the answer I get. And this is also true of our unconscious mind. If I ask my unconscious mind, I'm looking to become a new person. The prompt that I give that is what's going to determine what I'm going to attract back to me. And very much like what Omuugn just said about in our lives, there are different frequencies that we tune into and we get back what we are focused on, right? That's the prompt. If I give the universe a prompt and I say, hey, I'm trying to become a better person that's more athletic and I feel healthy and I wake up early in the morning and I'm productive throughout the day. Those are a series of prompt parameters that I'm giving my unconscious mind. And because it knows a lot of things and it's tied into my genes and my chemical makeup from my parents and my grandparents and all the things that we discussed about earlier, it's going to go out there in the universe and it's going to try to find all the things that make that true for me. And if I'm not very clear or intentional about the prompts that I'm giving my unconscious mind, it doesn't really know. It doesn't know how to test me. Did you mean this? Did you mean this? Did you mean this? Based on my own belief system. And so the clearer and more intentional I am about the prompts I give my unconscious mind, the clearer the directives will be when they come back to me. It's going to go, I think you meant this. And I'm going to go, that's exactly what I meant. That's exactly where I'm headed. That's the frequency that I'm turned into. And so I love the power of intention. If we haven't focused on it before, I think this is an incredible lesson in creativity, is the power of intention and what did you intend? What is your prompt? So the chat GPT will only come back with whatever you give it. It's going to do its best to try to make something happen. But if you don't give it a very clear prompt, you get dumb answers. And it's the same with our unconscious mind.
Yeah, we talked before about the the dichotomy of, we have left wing and right wing in our political structure, and we were talking about the collective consciousness. And that's how this works. The intelligence, this universal intelligence, is going to create whatever it is that's the profound desire of the most people. It becomes the predominant resonant frequency, and that's the thing that will materialize. And that's one of the reasons why we do affirmations. We do affirmations to put that program specifically into our subconscious mind so that it knows what to work on. And let me give you a little insight into how affirmations work. There's a law that says the first shall be last and the last shall be first. When you create spiritually, you create spiritually opposite than the way that you create in the physical world. You start with the idea of the blueprint that you want to create, and you work down through all of the different elements of that creation. And when that is transferred into the third dimensional world that we live in, we start with the end result and work backwards. For example, when we do our affirmations, we'll say something like, let's take abundance, for example. I want to become an abundant person, not in size, but in my in my characteristics and in my wealth and resources that I can manipulate. So you will start out by saying, I am abundant. That's your affirmation. That's actually a Hindu concept called Muladhara. And it's actually at the base of your spinal column. It's the lowest chakra in your body. And it's sort of who you are grounded. You say, I am this. I am a plumber. I am an electrician. I am a father. I am a wife. I am a business person. I am, however you see yourself, that's what you are. I am this. And then you reinforce that by going up to your next chakra, which is below the navel, and it's where you feel things. I have a gut feeling for this, we'll say. And you say, I feel abundant. I actually feel what it's like to run my hands over this silk blouse. I can feel the texture of the carpeting under my feet. I can feel and sense this new interior of this new car that I just purchased. I can feel and sense all of these things that I'm manifesting. I feel abundant. I feel abundant. And then you move up to the solar plexus chakra and you say, I attract wealth. I attract abundance. I attract it. I'm surrounded by abundance. Everything I touch is successful. I'm able to do this. I'm attracting good things into my life. And then it moves into the heart chakra where you say, you know, I love abundance. I appreciate abundance. I'm grateful for abundance. And that becomes an outward expression now of what you're feeling. And then you speak it through the throat chakra and you say, I'm speaking wealth and abundance now into my reality. That's what I'm resonating out loud. I'm starting these resonant frequencies to compound and to manifest. And then it moves into your third eye chakra, where you say, I can see that I am abundant. Look at all the ways in which I am experiencing abundance. I can see people giving me things. I can see whatever it is that you're trying to create. And then it eventually goes to the crown chakra, where you say, now I understand abundance. I've gone through this whole process of abundance, and I understand how all of these pieces fit together. And it has created the reality of abundance in my life. And if our affirmations are based on those energy centers in our body, and we go through the process of establishing our grounding reality, and then feeling it and attracting it and loving it and appreciating it and seeing it and putting that vibration out into the universe. This is what I want. And this is what I understand. Affirmations kind of take on a living reality. It's more than just saying the words. An affirmation isn't just saying the words. It's changing your belief system. You're putting a new program into your computer, into your intelligence, into your subconscious mind, into your soul, into your spirit. You're saying, this is the new program that I want running in my reality. And so it's very, very specific software. And you do that with every trait, every characteristic, everything that you want to create and manifest in your life. You take it through this process of appreciating it, loving it, amplifying the energy of it, and bringing it into your reality. We can do that with anything that we want to create. In fact, the scripture says, whatsoever you believe when you pray, that will become your reality. I'm paraphrasing that a little bit.
Well, you brought up the concept of gratitude, and gratitude is a really big part of the law of attraction. Tell us about why gratitude is so important in this process of creation.
Well, first of all, gratitude is a very elevated and high vibration. If you're trying to create or manifest something, it would only be because you want to do that. You have a desire to do that. If you're going for a new home, you desire a new home, or you wouldn't be going for a new home. If you want an automobile, you wouldn't go for it unless you wanted to do that. So you have to realize that being thankful for what you have and appreciating what you have is a vibration that begins to rise, and you can put that into whatever it is you want to manifest. Gratitude is, someone has said, if you don't appreciate what you have, you won't really appreciate what you're going to get anyway. Because appreciation is a real reality in and of itself. Looking at the value of something and saying, I really value this thing, I appreciate it, and I'm grateful that I have it.
Well, you said a person said that. I'll tell you who said it. You said it in your book, The Insights and Wisdom of Omuugn. And you've got some really great ideas in here. And when we talk about the concept of creation, it's really important to kind of go through each of these individually, because there are pages of insights in here. One of them says, nothing expands your possibilities like unleashing your imagination. And that's another one of these in here. And I think it's so important that we bring in that imaginative element and say, what if this was slightly different? What if in my world, as I'm bringing something to my world that I would like to have as something new in my life, what if I were to have, like you mentioned, with the electricity and electrical outlets, I would like one every 6 feet instead of every 12 feet. And bringing your imagination powers into the creation process. Tell us a little bit about why that becomes such an important part of it as well in the process of creation.
Well, the idea is that we can create anything we want to create. And for example, if you walk into your yard, you either really like and enjoy your yard, or you would say, I would prefer something different. You can create something different in your yard. You can put up a gazebo. You can put up a water feature. You can landscape with flower beds, or do whatever you want to do. You can walk into a room in your house and say, is this the environment that I want to live in? Is this what I want my bedroom to look like, or my living room, or my kitchen? And I would prefer to do this or that. And you would want to organize and decorate and do the things in every one of those spaces that would be what you prefer. So you have the ability to go into your imagination and create whatever it is you want to create everywhere. You can take it down to the drawers in your dresser. This is how I want my drawers to be organized and what I want in my drawers. I know that we're out of time, but just the idea that we can create anything we want to create. And we don't know how it's going to happen. The universe, that's its job, not ours. Our job is to know what we want to believe, the traits that we want to have, the kinds of environments and homes that we want to live in, the kind of relationships that we want with all of our parents and our spouses and our children. We have to know all of those things with clarity and specificity, and then the universe will support us in that belief system. We've only scratched the surface today.
I know we could keep going on about this. And like you said, there are so many different facets of creation. I just absolutely love this hour that we get to spend together. And for those of you that are just joining us, thank you so much for tuning in. This is from the Insights and Wisdom of Omuugn. This is volume 1. There are actually 2 volumes inside this series, and we're unpacking them week by week in this session that we do with Omuugn Live. And so if you have not picked up your copy already, this is the Insights and Wisdom of Omuugn. Today's topic was on creation and manifestation, pages 167 through 177. And next week, we are talking about determination. So join us again next time, same place, same time next week. And we will see you guys. Thanks again and have a great week.